Hello. Today, we're going to talk about the biggest chance you'll ever have and how to take advantage of what's about to happen because it's already started. We will talk about the 15 main reasons why the biggest wealth transfer in history is happening right now and what this means for the rich, the poor, and those who want to move from one class to another. You're missing out if you haven't signed up yet. Now, before we get into these 15, you need to know about the 3 main types of wealth transfers that are about to happen. This happens when someone from an older generation dies or gives their money to someone from a younger generation. This is called a geographic transfer. China has been making money by being the factory of the world for the last 13 years, which is a simple example. This is when money moves from one technology to another. One simple example is how the wealth of people who owned factories shifted to people who owned marketplaces like Amazon, Google, and so on. Amazon, Google, and so on are more valuable than the factory in China that made plates, and Spotify buy is more valuable than whatever newspaper your city had in print. Ideally, you would be able to take advantage of all 3. We've been using them to quickly build up our wealth and investment portfolio. And so can you. If you like this kind of video, why not become a Lex supporter or at least subscribe to our channel? Now, let's take it apart. The coronavirus was the first thing to open Pandora's box. The whole world is in a state of chaos. People are having problems on their own. Small companies are going out of business. And despite all of this, the stock market is going up. This should show you that the stock market is not a good indicator of the economy. It shows how the big money is being put together. The pandemic has been one of the biggest transfers of money in recent times, and not just to people who need it very much. Instead, big businesses and people with assets made a lot of money from coronavirus. While everyone else was struggling to keep the lights on, the pandemic was a harsh reminder of how inefficient the system is as a whole. Even though a lot of people died, it could have been 102,100 times worse. And none of us were ready. In the last 6 months, no one was smarter than they were before. If not, they could have made a lot more money. The second thing is that governments just keep making money. Many of you probably don't know this, but 22% of all the US dollars in the world were made in the year 2020. Whenever there is a financial crisis, governments just keep making money. We saw this happen in 2008, and it's happening again in 2020. The government gave away free money. Do you know how insane that is? Anyone who knows anything about money knows that you can't get something for nothing. Here's another important lesson: inflation is a hidden tax on your money that most people don't even know they're paying. Inflation is shooting through the roof while people are taking their stimulus checks and giving the money to big businesses because of this volatility. This is one of the few times in history when interest rates have gone down. If you put $100,000 in the bank, you only have $98,000 when you want to take it out. And the $98,000 you have in your hand is only worth $90,000 when it comes to buying things. Every dollar loses value when a government keeps making money out of thin air. This is why smart people are now more likely to use gold and Bitcoin than traditional money. You're probably panicking right now and don't know what to do with this information. So, here's what you need to do. There has never been a better time than right now to borrow money. You decide what to do with that information. At the end of the video, you'll get an idea of where the world is going and why we think number 3 is that old people will die. This one is pretty clear. But the story has more to it. You can't talk about transferring wealth without bringing up the difference between generations. In 2015, a financial study found that baby boomers will give their children $36 trillion in the US by the middle of the century. Other estimates put the number closer to $68 trillion. Now that everything has happened, you need to know that most of this money comes from the wealth of the first generation. The old guard started businesses and made them successful, but they are now too old to keep going because they have money from the first generation. They had never dealt with a change in their wealth before. Some of them got their kids ready, but not everyone did. Just think about how different millennials and baby boomers are when it comes to managing money. This will show up in the market, and many companies will be sold or go out of business if they can't change with the times. Money moves from people who can't take care of it to those who can. In the present, the digital-first revolution has just begun. When you talk about generational change, the reality of the digital revolution hits you right in the face. Every dynamic company in the world just went digital first. You probably work from home right now, and you don't know when or if you'll decide to go back to working in an office. Remember how we said there are three main types of transfer at the beginning of this video? Well, the digital-first revolution also involves moving from one place to another. Since the only thing that matters to your company now is what you deliver and you do everything from home, the market will soon be open to people from all over the world. Why wouldn't someone from South Africa, Pakistan, or Uruguay with the right training be able to take your job? If you were worried that immigrants would take your jobs, they don't even have to come here anymore. They can take it from you over the internet. Local money will be opened up to everyone and bid on by anyone who can deliver, no matter where they are from. We all speak English, know how to use computers, and are all competing for the same high-paying jobs. In the race for profit, this is the chance for everyone to have the same chances, and companies that want to stay in business will use any leverage they can to control where the business environment goes. Society follows, which brings us to number 5, finally, everyone is getting online. If you live in a developed society, you might not have realized how much of a competitive advantage you were taking for granted because only you had access to information resources and tools. Let's use India as an example. By 2020, India will have close to 700 million people online. That's more than twice the size of the US population, and these people weren't online 10 years ago. This number is likely to keep growing until 85 to 90% of India's 1.35 billion people are online. This means that more than 1 billion people who speak English will have the same kind of digital training and information that you have now. Even though most of our YouTube viewers are from the US, Canada, Australia, and the UK, we have seen this in our own analytics. Our content has become more popular in emerging markets like India over the past 3 years. Eastern Europe has become a busy place for all kinds of things. And telecom and a lot of other geographies are doing the same thing. Where trends go, business goes with them. Big players are moving around in the race to connect everyone in the world to the internet as quickly as possible, and this is driven by progress. The internet is no longer a luxury, so it makes sense that billionaires are pouring money and resources into telecom companies. It is a useful way that Google is making the world more connected. Facebook is sending internet down with electric drones that fly themselves, and Elon Musk wants to cover the whole planet with a net of internet satellites. The market is no longer in the middle of the city. It's moved to the cloud, and the ability to do business has always been the most important factor in making money. Since there are no longer gatekeepers to the cloud, anyone in the world can go to this new marketplace by the end of the day, set up an online store with Shopify, and be able to accept payments. People from all over the world can find what you're selling and buy it. We don't know what's more amazing than this. The 6th is the domino effect. The domino effect in markets can both make things better and make things worse. First, let's look at growth. When a business does well, a lot of other businesses start up that help the existing market and create growth around each of these new businesses. Google's search engine is like a chain of dominoes. YouTube's success led to the creation of YouTube. We were able to build our company, and our contractors were able to build other companies and hire their own people because of our success. It's the whole thing. If you want to be rich in the next 10 to 20 years, don't let a new technology go until you've made a lot of money with it. When it comes to the bad side of the domino effect, the best example is what happened with the pandemic and the work-from-home revolution that followed soon after. People no longer need to go to the office, and since they can do the same quality of work from home, they don't need to pay the high rent in the city center. Instead, they can move to nearby areas where rent is cheaper. As a result, rent is going down in all cities. And since people no longer live in the city, the small businesses that depended on the heavy traffic from the business centers are going out of business. So, the chain keeps going. From the old system, the wealth is moved to the new system. 7th, new money is buying up the old money. In the current situation, old money is scared and having a hard time. Since the pandemic, we've been able to buy 2 very rare and valuable properties from old money that they would have never sold otherwise. In one case, their main business was in danger of going bankrupt, so they tried to sell anything they could to save the business. And with the second one, an old businessman saw the pandemic as a sign of the end of the world and is selling off most of his portfolio. He is part of the new money generation, which does business with new technology. We're not the only ones doing this, either. Young people are making money right now, and the biggest asset transfer is happening right now. Kids on TikTok make millions of dollars a year, and they have access to channels and wealth advisors from a young age. Pop stars are no longer on the live rich, die poor bandwagon. They have gotten smarter and are now building companies, buying assets, etc. Taylor Swift owns real estate worth more than $300 million. Jay-Z has spent more new money to buy heritage companies and invest in new technology. Luxury brands are being bought up by LVMH. One at a time. Kanye West has also bought a lot of land. People who used to own factories aren't making as much money as people with new money who use modern tools to keep making more money. 8th, emerging countries have an unfair advantage in the market. The fact that emerging countries don't have to start from scratch gives them a unique chance. Kids in poor countries are growing up with smartphones and the internet, which is changing the game. Countries that used to be poor have become smarter with their money, and the big players no longer take advantage of them the way they used to. They are building infrastructure and investing in their own business ecosystems, and their wealth is growing because the environment hasn't reached its full potential yet. It's much harder to get money in the UK or Italy than in Ghana or Peru. This is because developed countries like Italy have very mature markets. Breaking into them is very expensive, and doesn't bring in much money. Taxes are high and there are a lot of rules to follow. On the other side of the world, you can get away with anything. There is little to no oversight, the cost is low in the long run, corruption is still common, and whole fortunes are being made as a result. People in Bangladesh or Nicaragua can't imagine paying 50 to 60% of their income in taxes because they don't trust the government to handle it well. But Switzerland has no trouble with that. Here's what's real. If you want a good quality of life, you should live in a country that has grown and developed. If you want to get rich, you should move to a country that is on the rise. Number 9. Consumerism is at its highest level ever. People today would buy just about anything. The pandemic has slowed it down a bit, but the overall trend is clear. We spend, and we're all hooked on buying more things. E-commerce and marketing are one of the two most important industries in the world. Both have exploded and done very well in the last 10 years, and they will do even better in the next 10. People who are really smart are trying to get you to buy more things. This video you're watching right now has ads that are meant to make you buy more. There is a catch, though. Consumerism is good for the seller, not the consumer. When you buy something, money moves from one person to another. When you buy something from someone, you give them your money, which is a form of wealth. On a bigger scale, when people give money to sellers, they are literally making them rich. At the moment, society is divided into two groups, consumers and creators. With every transaction, creators get richer while consumers get poorer. You're going to be a part of this transfer no matter what, so figure out how to add value and get rich from it. Number 10. Bitcoin and the blockchain. Way back when, to become a banker, you had to be one of the richest people in the world and get help from other rich people. Even after the 2008 financial crisis, someone was able to make the safest bank ever by writing code on a computer screen. Bitcoin and the blockchain technology on which it is based are the most important technological advances since the internet. If you haven't figured it out yet, you're already behind. In the same way that Facebook and Google were built on top of the internet, Bitcoin was built on blockchain. In the long run, blockchain is 10 times more valuable to humanity than the internet. Even China. Blockchain is bigger than Bitcoin, but people who understand how it works have already made a lot of money. You might not know this, but Bitcoin has gone up 40% in the last 30 days since the start of the year. Even though there is a pandemic, Bitcoin is up 125%. Most of our net worth is invested in crypto, and we're in this for the long haul. Remember how people got rich by using the internet. You don't want to miss out on this if you want to be a part of blockchain's new way of transferring wealth and its technological revolution. Number 11. Technology will cause changes in the market, and it doesn't matter what industry you work in or how much you like your job. It doesn't let anyone off the hook. Any inefficiency will be fixed, every overbet will be punished, and giants will lose out to rivals who are faster and better equipped. We remember that just a few years ago, most of the automakers laughed at Tesla's price and said that the company had no chance of succeeding. They were wrong about Elon. Tesla has passed Toyota, Mercedes, and BMW to become the most valuable car company in the world. The auto industry was shocked, and people who had invested in Tesla saw 5 to 10 times their money back. The same thing happened with NIO. For those who don't know, NIO is the Chinese Tesla. The world and, more importantly, the money world are saying, out with the old and in with the new. Every industry that can be disrupted will be in full swing in the next 10 years. Don't forget how Apple crushed Nokia so badly. Well, this is about to happen to every industry. Number 12 that is no longer relevant. There will soon be a lot of automation. In the past few years, Banks had to hire thousands of people to enter and analyze data. But today, these thousands of people have been replaced by automated bots, like the ones made by UiPath, a company that was worth a few million 5 years ago but is now worth $10 billion. These are the people who write code and program machines to do the boring, repetitive work you hated doing until you realized that software was going to take your job. The money that companies used to pay their employees will be given to the people who made the boats. Uber has more than 5 million drivers all over the world, which cuts into the company's profits. What do you think will happen when software for self-driving cars is good enough? Another transfer will happen. If something can be done by a machine, it will be that way soon enough. You might think that you're safe for now. But we're not that hopeful. If you aren't in the software business, it's only a matter of time before software makes its way into your business. Number 13, society is changing while we watch. The gap between rich and poor keeps getting bigger. The rich are getting richer while the poor. Well, the truth is that nobody cares much about what happens to poor people. As long as they don't stop the rich from doing what they want to do, right? That's exactly what a basic income for everyone is. We'll give you guys money for nothing. So we don't have to be afraid of you starting a riot. We can already see that society is being split up and reorganized. There are literal lines drawn between the rich and the poor. Travel right now is being restricted for the poor while the rich can fly freely under business travel. Politics and policies are driven by social media. We mentioned Uber earlier, a company that during the election sway the public opinion in order to not qualify their drivers as employees, so they don't have to pay benefits or be liable for their actions. Uber and Lyft spent over $200 million on the ballot measure to keep their drivers as independent contractors, and they have used their platforms to tell their drivers how to vote. If Uber can change public opinion, wait until Google and Facebook try. We live in a corporate autocracy right now, and how you position yourself in this context will determine your place in the new wealth hierarchy. We're not saying it's good or bad, we're just telling you to be ready. Number 14, there will be new industries and more new tech. Tobacco is going out of style. Cannabis is already in the election, which proved that there is a demand for plant-based meat substitutes and that whole new industries are growing quickly outside of meat. Now the big players are following suit. Even McDonald's has said it will start selling plant-based meat substitutes in 2021. No, we're not making this up. Ellen showed off a pig with a chip in its brain earlier this year and said with confidence, "Well, get ready to telepathically text in the next 5 years, because typing with your fingers is so boring." We are close to making a full switch from fossil fuels to renewable energy in the next few decades. This will mean another transfer of wealth from one group to another. Changes are happening everywhere you look. If you expect them to all happen at once, you might miss them. But 10 years ago, there were no businesses that delivered food. Now, you can order anything from your phone. This changed the restaurant business in a big way. In this new world, those who can change quickly do well. As everyone else walks by, the number of people zooming by on electric scooters in big cities shows that the world is changing. Fast food, transportation, banking, and even education have moved almost entirely online, or are trying to. All of these are very early versions of the future we will all live in. If you try to explain any of this to your grandparents, you'll soon realize how far we've come in just 2 generations. We are literally going through one of the biggest changes in human history, and we can't wait to see where it takes us. And in fact, we have a good idea about that. Number 15, the race to the moon has already started. If you think that everything we've talked about so far in this video is dividing society, just wait until you realize that the world will soon be divided into single planet beings and multi-planet beings. This may not seem like much, but consider it this way. What if you grew up in an isolated village and only interacted with people from that village your whole life? You don't have to imagine this because we have video of people from North Sentinel Island doing just that. You know them because they like to shoot wooden arrows and fly helicopters. Now compare this to someone who has been able to trade, learn, exchange tools, and experiment with everything and everyone else in the world. It's literally modern versus primitive. Except for asteroids made of gold and other rare metals that are 70,000 times more valuable. How much money the whole planet is worth. There are other metals and substances that could change people more drastically. When the new settlers came to America, they called it the land of the free, which we think was a bad choice of words given who they brought with them on the ships, but it made them very wealthy. Space will go through the same thing. Just hope that the slave part is over and the race has already started. Rich people are just making small changes at the last minute to make sure their boats don't sink during the change. This is a big wake-up call for everyone who feels like they're in the middle right now, because they really are. And it doesn't matter if we like it or not. So, today's question is about how you plan to make the most of this change. That will soon happen. Tell us in the comments below. We can't wait to hear what you think about anything we're talking about today. Those of you who are still watching, we couldn't just leave you hanging, you know. Here's the extra. A drop is coming, and then things will grow very quickly. We know this video was great on its own, but we need to help you, the real Alexa, come up with a plan for the short to medium term. The pandemic crisis we're going through right now is very similar to what happened in 2008. The financial collapse started at the end of 2006, but it wasn't until 2008 that it was felt all over the world. What did we find out? It took 4 years for real estate prices to get back to where they were before the crash. There will be a rebound. The same way of doing things. We can see in every industry that anything you can buy now for less than it cost before the pandemic is a good buy. We bought a lot of stock in March, and now we're 70% ahead on that investment. You can look at all of the stocks on our channel, and if the stock market had crashed, we would have protected ourselves with gold and crypto. For those of you who don't know, when the stock market goes down, the price of gold usually goes up. If governments start printing money, people will lose trust in traditional currencies and buy more Bitcoin. With this kind of diversification and risk management, you can win. Even if things change in the long run. This is why we're so excited about the chance people who are willing to take it have right now. But that's not all. Out of every problem comes a chance to do something better. The 2008 financial crisis led to Airbnb, Uber, and Bitcoin. Most likely, the pandemic will do the same. You just have to keep your eyes open and pay attention to what's being changed. Even though the world doesn't repeat itself, it often sounds the same. So pay close attention to the tune. It's singing before the beat drops and getting ready to act. We hope to see you all on the other side of this, when we should all be much wealthier. This is your decade. The chances you've waited your whole life for are happening right now. All you have to do is find your place in it. There has never been more money out there for people to take than there is right now. Some people will make it through the decade, while others will grab it by the horns and ride it all the way to the end. Write the number 10 in the comments if you're ready to take on this decade as your answer to the question of the day. This will show us that you're ready to make the next 10 years the most productive of your life. We're excited to find out how many of you get rich in the years to come. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more great videos, and we always appreciate your thumbs up.